What if your life was an invitation and everything wasn't just happening to you, but through you? When you start to believe in the magic of you, you become it. This is your invitation to heal and rise above into the fullest expression of you. This is the Liz Svatek Show, and your transformation starts now. Let's begin. Okay, well, welcome back to the Liz Svatek Show. Where's my sign? Right here. Where warrior women rise and where reinvention is revolution. So today is a pinch me moment. Today is one of those moments where I get to have one of my favorite people. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know I'm out there loving on him from afar, fangirling, and he's here today. It's a pinch me moment. You may know him from his viral Instagram videos. He's a genius. And today we're going to have a conversation that every woman, I believe, needs to hear. If you've ever felt foggy, anxious, disconnected, or like something is off in your brain and you can't put your finger on it, well, this episode is about to change everything for you. So I'm joined by Dr. Daniel Amen. He's a psychiatrist. He is a brain health expert and the author of over 40 books on how to heal your brain and your life. He's looked at over 200,000 brain scans, and what he's discovered about trauma, burnout, and the female brain is shocking. So we're going to talk about how stress, people-pleasing, and perfectionism literally rewire your brain. We're going to talk about what trauma does to your mind and how to heal it for real. And we're going to talk about why women feel stuck in survival mode, how we can reclaim our power, our peace, and our presence. This isn't just about brain science. It is about waking up to your power. That is what this episode is about today. Because when you heal your brain, you heal your life. I think Dr. Daniel Amen would agree with me on that one, right? Okay, so welcome to the show, Dr. Amen.
Liz, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so thrilled you're here. I can hardly contain myself. I have been dreaming of this moment, not just because my son was born with ADHD and a bunch of other things, and I've been dying to bring him to your office, which I will do, but just because everything you have done, all this research and the way you're looking at brains is so different than I think the way we've been looking at our brains in the past. I think we kind of thought, whatever you get, not even thinking we could heal our brains. So let's start with this. You say, change your brain, change your life. But so many women over 40 feel like their brains are broken from stress and trauma or just motherhood in general. Where do we even start to reclaim our brain health in midlife?
Well, it starts always by loving your brain. Nobody cares about their brain. Why? You can't see it. You can see the wrinkles in your skin or the fat around your belly. And then you can do something when you're unhappy with it. But because most people never look at their brain, they don't really care. And it's the lack of care that makes them stay up late, that makes them drink too much, that makes them go on benzos to manage their anxiety. Once you look, so I was 37. I'm a double board certified psychiatrist. I was the top neuroscience student in medical school, and I don't really care about my brain. And so when I first saw it, when we started our imaging work in 1991, I'd scanned my mom the week before, and she had a stunningly beautiful brain, which really reflected her life. 7 children, 54
Wow.
children, knows
Wow.
everybody's birthday,
Oh my God.
everybody's life. And my brain wasn't healthy because I played football in high school and I had meningitis as a young soldier, and I had bad habits like getting 4 hours of sleep at night. So I didn't really care about my own brain. And when I saw it, I developed this term I really like called brain envy. I wanted my mother's brain. right? Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause. I've not seen it once in 45 years of doing this. And when you get brain envy, everything in your life changes, including your memory, your energy, your mood, your sleep, your relationships.
Wow. Now I have brain envy. Thank you for introducing me to that concept. That's so interesting because you're right. We don't think about that. And even women trying to convince them to even take care of their hearts has been kind of a tough sell. It's almost like you're right. If it's not on the outside of us, we ignore it. We think it's not even there. And unless it's falling off or we're bleeding or we collapse to the ground, then we're like, oh, I guess I should handle this. So, yes, we all need to develop brain envy. So you looked at over 200,000 brain scans. I mean, first of all, doing that would make my brain go crazy. But looking at over 200,000 brain scans, what's something shocking, like something we just would never believe that you've seen in women's brains specifically that we wouldn't even know?
Well, I actually did a study. I published the world's largest gender study on what's the difference between the male and female brain. So we've now done over 260,000 scans. And it's like we're not the same species. Women overall have a much healthier brain than males do. Maybe one of the reasons they live on average 7 years longer. Um, their frontal lobes are healthier. Why does that matter? Because it makes them great leaders. They have better focus, forethought, judgment, impulse control, organization, planning, empathy. Um, but their emotional brain works too hard. And it's so clear. One study that fits with mine is women have 52% less available serotonin as males do. And what does serotonin do? Serotonin is actually an inhibitory neurotransmitter, and it sort of settles things down. But if you don't have enough, you tend to worry and you can hold grudges. And if things don't go your way, you can be upset. And women are at twice the risk for depression. And I just published another big study with researchers from USC on depression is too much often activity in the limbic or emotional centers of the brain. And women compared to men, or females compared to males, have way more activity in the emotional circuits, which is why they're primary caretakers for children. There's not one society, I think you have to go to penguins, where males are the primary caretaker for children because the limbic brain is also involved in bonding
Hmm.
and in nesting. And I was an Army psychiatrist for 7 years. And I'd always tell the soldiers, I said, when you move, she can get depressed. Uh, and so you need to stay home for a couple of days and help her put the house together. And if you do that, she's going to be much happier with you than if you don't do that.
Yeah.
It's just because of how our brains are wired.
So interesting. And is there anything specific that happens kind of after the age of 40 with women? I feel like, a lot of people are saying they got that brain fog, like I can't think straight. Like a lot of us are saying that we're blaming menopause and we don't know what to blame it on, doctor. Like, are we stressed? Are we pressured? Like, what is it? Is there something in our brains that's kind of pointing to that in midlife?
Well, my wife says if she doesn't take her progesterone at night, they'll find her on the 6 o'clock news having done something horrible.
Oh my God.
What a lot of women don't know is your hormones actually start changing 10 years before you go into menopause.
Oh,
And the one that drops first is progesterone. And progesterone is sort of like the brain's natural anti-anxiety drug. It helps you feel calm. It helps you feel peaceful. And when levels drop, well, all of a sudden you're anxious, you're irritable, and you can't sleep. And so you go to your primary care doctor or to your GYN, and they give you Xanax or Ambien or Lexapro. I
Yeah.
can't tell you the number of women who've been on that trio.
Mm-hmm.
And if only the doctor would have, about day 19 of your cycle, tested your hormones to see if you're a little bit low and then support it with 100 milligrams of progesterone. It just helps so much. But also 40 is the sandwich part of the generation where you're worried about your children, and now the last 3 generations, women have worked outside the house. In California, where I live, 90% of mothers work outside the house. Um, so they're chronically tired and they're managing kids and they're worrying about their parents. And so um, chronic stress comes at a time their hormones are changing. And then in God's cruel trick, uh, give teenagers who are going through puberty at that time, which then, of course, makes everything more stressful.
100%. 100%. That's so interesting. So I take progesterone and it's not quite like your wife, but I take it because somebody told me to take it. So I take it. I don't know if I felt anything different from that, but I definitely was having hot flashes for a while before I started estrogen and all that stuff. And now I can actually sleep. And now I feel like I sleep like a rock. And I don't think I've ever slept like a rock. So maybe you're right that it's the progesterone that's doing that, because I really never did sleep that well before.
Well, as soon as you have a child, your brain remodels itself to be much more aware. So you asked yourself about that fight or flight response. And that comes from having a child, because now all of a sudden when you sleep, it's not all about you. It's about generations of you. It's about
Yes.
your children. And so that's when many women go from sleeping well to sleeping poorly. And progesterone just helps reset things.
Yeah. Let's talk about this kind of, you're pointing to something that I bring up. So I'm a coach and I coach women over 40, and I talk about all these fun things like we're talking about today, but not from the science necessarily. Well, maybe from neuroscience, yes, but not necessarily from a brain health perspective, but definitely from a brain perspective. And I do something called rapid transformational therapy, which I don't know if you've ever heard of before. Have you heard of that before? So it's kind of like hypnotherapy meets 5 years of traditional therapy. And in 90 minutes, I help women release and rewire their brains. And it's an incredible thing. But the most common woman that comes to me is an over functioning, high functioning, but over functioning, burnout, disconnected, masking with wine, perfectionism, people pleasing. And I am always wondering what these brains look like. When you when you look at a brain like that, can you tell? Like if I just gave you a scan of a woman like that, would you be able to know that she's kind of high functioning, masking it with wine? Like, would you be able to pick a woman like that out just from the scan?
Well, I'm really good at picking out male brains from female brains. So if we start with that.
Yes.
And if she's highly driven, her emotional brain is busy and she likes things a certain way, or she gets upset, and she often gets the mindset, okay, I'll just do it myself. Um, and the wine makes her brain look older than she is.
Hmm.
And the big lie we've been sold is alcohol's a health food. It's not. It increases your risk of 7 different types of cancer.
Right.
And it also increases your risk of divorce, because you're just more likely to say the first thought that comes into your head. Filtering it,
100%.
will this help me? And the wine industry has basically addicted 2 generations thinking this is good for me when it's clearly not for you. And, the research is getting clearer and clearer. And I see a day 10 years from now where, if you see somebody who's smoking, At least for me, I'm like, really? Like, you don't read or
Right. Like, are you not on our earth? You don't understand?
right. I think when we see people drinking, that's going to be the same way in 10 years. People are going to like go, haven't you heard?
Yeah. That's so interesting. A lot of my friends, Dr. Amen, are giving me this whole, I don't drink at all. And I say, oh my God, amazing. And they say, yeah, I just pop a gummy. So let's talk about that because honestly, I'm like, is that better? Like, I don't think that that's any better for your brain in the long run, but you tell me.
Well, they're both bad. I published this study. I think it's the world's largest imaging study on 62,454 scans on how the brain ages. And it's really interesting. Little kids have very busy brains, and old people have sleepy brains. And then I looked at, so what accelerates aging? And if you have schizophrenia, which is a pretty severe psychiatric disorder, your brain looks 10 years older
Hmm.
other people. The next worst thing, which surprised me, was marijuana. That
Really?
is not good for the brain. And whenever I post on this, I get so much hate. And I'm like, know the truth. The truth will set you free. Marijuana makes your brain look older than you are. And now, brand new study published in JAMA Psychiatry, not from my group, but from another group on 1,000 marijuana users. Every area of their brain is lower in activity.
Hmm.
This is not a good thing for you. And why not learn how to do diaphragmatic breathing or learning how to discipline your mind, like not believe every stupid thing you think? Um, Programs I'm trying to get little kids to like learn how to manage their minds so they don't have to drink or they don't have to do the gummy, which is really you're trying to manage your mind with chemicals when you can learn how to manage your mind yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the work that I teach about managing your mind, meditation. But one of the things I do after rapid transformational therapy is I not only give them a hypnotherapy session, but I give them a recording of a new hypnotherapy session where every night they have to listen to it every day for 21 days, and it's glorious. Most of them listen to it for a year. I have women 3 years from when I recorded it, and they're still listening to it, and they say to me, "My God, it just like puts me to sleep." And I'm thinking, that's kind of what we need. We need our brains occupied with not all that worry and frenetic stuff so that that we feel like we have to medicate ourselves. But it's almost like, okay, if you want to give your busy brain something to think about, let's give it something good to think about. All these things you do want, right? We spend so much time thinking about what we don't want. We don't spend a lot of time thinking about what we do want. And I feel like these women that are taking these gummies are just trying to be like, I just need to chill out. I'm like, well, there's ways to, breathing chills you out. Like you're saying, breathing really does. What is the effect that doing something like breath work has on your brain?
And automatically calms the anxiety centers in your brain. And, my strategy for people who have panic attacks are one, never leave the situation that makes you anxious, unless, of course, it's dangerous, right? If you have a panic attack in a grocery store, you have a panic attack in a party, you need to stay there. Otherwise, the anxiety will start to control. The
Yeah.
second thing is breathe. Because it's when our breathing becomes fast and shallow, our anxiety centers in our brain activate and make us think the world is going to come to an end. And I do it in a very specific way. I want you to take 4 seconds, breathe in, take a big breath, hold it for a second, and then 8 seconds out. Take twice as long to breathe out as you breathe in, and then hold it out for a second or two. It's about a 15-second breath. And I teach people how to do it diaphragmatically or how to breathe with their bellies. And it's so helpful. I mean, every second grader should learn how to manage their mind. And the first thing is breathe. And then the third thing is write down whatever you're thinking. Just write it down and ask yourself whether or not it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true, whether or not it's useful. And I just, it's so incredible. I teach people kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that steal their happiness. And thoughts come from all sorts of places. They come from the news you watch, to the music you listen to the voices of your mom or dad or pastor. And they actually come from different generations. The trauma in the past gets transmitted through our genes. And all of a sudden, say your grandmother was raped when she was 19. All of a sudden, you're 19 and you get these very scary thoughts, and they have actually nothing to do with you.
Interesting.
Just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true, whether or not it's useful, whether or not it's helpful. And you just don't have to believe the nonsense going through your head. I have all of my patients give their mind a name. And that way you can gain psychological distance from the noise in your head. When I learned about this, I'm like, so what would I name my mind? After my pet raccoon, I had a pet raccoon when I was 16, and I loved her, but she was a troublemaker. It's just like my mind. Like all of a sudden, nobody loves you or everybody hates you. And I'm like, that's not true, right? But you have to do this 30 times. Write it down and then talk back to it. So, Liz, were you good at talking back to your parents when you were a teenager?
I was excellent at it. I was a professional.
Me too. But no one had ever taught me to talk back to myself.
Yeah.
And it's like when you give your mind a name, all of a sudden the chatter is less personal. And it's not the thoughts you have that make you suffer. It's the thoughts you attach to.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry Seinfeld once said, the brain is a sneaky organ. We all have weird, crazy, stupid, sexual, violent thoughts that nobody should ever hear. And when you drink, they're just more likely to get out. But just because you have a crazy thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true. There's a verse in the New Testament I love, Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yes.
Most Christians know that verse, but they don't know the second part of it. The second part of it is then you can test it to see if it fits God's good, perfect, and pleasing will. And so when I get a thought, I'm like, well, does this fit the reason I'm on earth? And it's just so helpful. It's like, no, that doesn't fit.
Yeah, I'm sure 9 times out of 10 it does not. Yes. So well, now I have to ask. First of all, you're one of these people, and this is one of my favorite type of person, who you just kind of casually say things like, "When I was an army doctor," or "When I had a pet raccoon when I was 16." I'm like, "Wait, what? Wait, what? What?" So, what was your raccoon's name?
Herman.
Herman.
After the movie, The Summer of 42, I love that movie. And Hermie was the main character. And I didn't know she was a girl. So we got pregnant. Then I found out she was a girl. Her name was Hermie. And yeah, I loved her so much. But she was a troublemaker, just like my mom. She TP'd my mother's bathroom. That was very not right.
Well, that's
It's all the fish out of my sister's aquarium. Had a very bad day. He'd leave raccoon poo in my shoes. And I'm like, that's my mind. It just stirs up trouble for no particular reason.
Well, she sounds like an utter delight, if you ask me. So I love the term "kill the ants." First of all, I'm never gonna forget that you had a pet raccoon and she did all the things she did. She TP'd the bathroom. But I love "kill the ants." I'm gonna absolutely take that in my heart, and I love that Bible verse. I never knew it had that second part. Tell me, can you inherit? Because you just when you were talking about generations and bringing that forward, can you inherit a brain? Or do we inherit some of the trauma? I know epigenetically, when we think about that, I've heard that, you bring in, I've heard of people going to cities and being like, I know this place, and it was where their great grandfather lived and all this crazy stuff. But is that through our brains or through our body, or where is that we kind of can inherit some of those things?
Well, that's through our genes. And so when you were born with all the eggs in your ovaries you will ever have. So it's very different than men and sperm. So you just keep making them, keep making them, but not for women. And so what does that mean? It means whatever happens to you in life will turn on or off certain genes in your ovaries, in the eggs, that make illness more or less likely in you, but also your babies and grandbabies.
Mm.
And women don't know this. It should be taught to every 10-year-old girl. You have all the eggs you'll ever have in your ovaries now. And so if you're good to your body, well, that's going to have a positive impact on your children and your grandchildren. Because, I think it's really important to teach people it's not just about you. It's about generations of you, and boys and girls who smoke have children who are much more likely to be obese. That's an epigenetic phenomenon. And there's a great book about this by Mark Wolyn, Wolyn, and it's called It Didn't Start With You. And he talks about how trauma, but I would also argue how success gets transmitted through our genes. And I love that because it means it's not just about me. Because when it's just about me, I'm much more likely to be sad,
Yeah,
much more likely to be anxious than if I'm here to influence generations.
absolutely. Absolutely. You talk about brain envy. Most people, as you know, take better care of their phones than their minds, right? I always tell women every night, can you imagine not plugging in your phone? And they say, never. I would never start the day with my phone on 0%. I said, but you start that way in your life and with your health every single time. So what are the biggest lies we've been sold about our brains? What is keeping us sick and stuck and small?
But they can't change. That's really old neuroscience, that you're sort of stuck with the brain you have. But 30 years ago, people started talking about neuroplasticity. And every day you're making your brain better or you're making it worse.
Mm.
Every day, your brain throughout life continues to make 700 new stem cells in a part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is on the inside of your temporal lobes. Hippocampus is Greek for seahorse. So I tell my patients, your brain is making 700 new baby seahorses every day. Your behavior is either growing them so they incorporate into your brain, or you're murdering them. And
Mm.
I would argue alcohol and the THC gummies are murdering them. But when you exercise, you're increasing them. When you meditate, you're increasing them. When you eat healthy food, you're increasing them. And the donuts are murdering them.
Oh, no, not donuts too. Doctor, you're taking everything away from us. I can't have a martini.
Think like that.
I can't have a donut.
I want you to think, what do you really want? So if you ask me, go, hey, Daniel, what do you really want? I want energy. I want memory. I want clarity. I want to live to 100 where I'm not a burden to someone. And so then when you go, do you want donuts?
Not really the
That's
same
short
level.
term. Yeah, I mean, it works for like what? 15, no, not even 15 minutes. It's like, oh, it's awesome for like 10 minutes. and then
10
my brain
seconds.
starts to walk through mud.
Yeah.
It's like short-term pain or long-term pain. And whenever people go, oh, everything in moderation, that's the gateway thought to hell. Because as soon as you have that thought, it means you're going to cheat. And what I want is energy. And that doesn't come when I eat things that abuse me. And I have this question for my patients always is, do you love the food you're eating? And does it love you back?
Mm,
Because if it doesn't love you back, I don't know, Liz, if you've ever been in a bad relationship.
of course.
I have.
Of course. Several million times. Yes.
And I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
I married my best friend, and I'm damn sure not doing it with food. I am only going to eat things I love that love me too.
Yeah. I don't think people really realize that food affects your brain. So if you see somebody, for example, who is a sugar addict, like, oh, Dr. Amen, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything, but there they are with a bag of CVS candy, like sugar addicts. Where does that fall on the continuum? Like, obviously, pot and marijuana, whatever, is at the top, and so is, wine and all the alcohol. Where's sugar on that list?
That's right at the top.
Oh, really?
We're calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. And with 75% of our population overweight and 50% diabetic or pre-diabetic, you want to be really careful with what you eat. There's a study from the Mayo Clinic. So your brain is 2% of your body's weight, about 3 pounds, but it uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume. So what you eat determines how you think,
Mm,
how you feel, how you act. And um, this is just so important. And I find if I can get someone's food right,
hmm
that they don't need me as much, which is actually the goal, right? My goal is to get people better quickly because then they'll send me like 10 of their friends.
Exactly.
And that sort of works.
That's my goal too, Dr. Amen. We have the same exact goal.
And sugar is
Sugar's high on the list.
inflammatory. It disrupts your brain. There's this fascinating study from UCLA where they gave mice a head injury. So not nice, but whacked them in the head. And then one group, they just gave their regular healthy diet. The next group, they gave their regular healthy diet plus fructose, which is fruit sugar. At the end of 3 weeks, the mice who had the head injury with their regular healthy diet could run the mazes they knew. The group with sugar were confused.
Ooh.
And so sugar is addictive. It has no nutrient value. It's pro-inflammatory. I think it's good to see it as the enemy. There's a study from UCL, from the Mayo Clinic, where they looked at 3 different diets. People had a fat-based diet, so think healthy oils, healthy fish, nuts, seeds, avocados, 42% less risk of getting Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
Protein-based diet, so think of the caveman diet, 21% less risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. People who are on a simple carbohydrate-based diet, bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juice, sugar, had a 400% increased risk of
Oh my
Alzheimer's.
God.
And so the question becomes, I have one of my patients I dearly love, he has racehorses. And I'm like, would you ever feed a $10 million horse junk food? And he looked at me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And
Like, no.
of course not. I'm like, but aren't you worth so much more?
Right.
And
Yeah.
why would you ever feed yourself bad things if they create who you are, and now we're in this middle of this, insane health crisis where 90% of our healthcare dollars are spent on chronic preventable illnesses.
Mm. Well, let's talk about this. I see a lot of people doing Ozempic and taking peptides and over here losing all the weight, right? And feeling better and drinking less because guess what? They don't have the tolerance for it. And is that helping your brain when you're doing things like losing weight in that capacity? You're not eating, like you used to eat. You can't eat as much. You can't drink as much. Is that helpful?
So, if you want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. And Bright Minds is the acronym. The D is diabetes, where you're overweight and have high blood sugar. If you just have that one, if you have the D, automatically you have 10 of the 11. It is so bad for you. So if you've tried to get smart about your eating and it doesn't work, I'm not a huge fan of gastric bypass surgery. But if you've done everything and it's not working, get the surgery. If you've done the right things and it doesn't work, Ozempic can be completely helpful for you. I think Oprah said what it did is it stopped the food chain.
Yeah.
But I don't like being dependent on a drug to manage my habits. And so it's new. We'll see. It's sort of like psilocybin. Everybody's so excited about it. I read the Senate passed some law, the Psilocybin Act, making it more available to people. I'm very worried about that because I feel like I've seen this party many times before.
Yeah.
Early 1980s, Benzo's Mommy's Little Helper. That turned out to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Early 1990s, alcohol is a health food. That's a disaster. Late 1990s, marijuana is innocuous. It's good medicine. No, it isn't. It increases the risk of suicide for teenagers who use it. Suicide and psychosis. Pain is the fifth vital sign, which gave us the opiate epidemic. And I'm like, why not work on breathing and not eating every stupid thing you think and getting your diet to be colorful fruits and vegetables, healthy protein, and healthy fat. So that's my message. And, my goal is to create a brain health revolution with the things we know that don't have side effects.
Yeah. So if you had to give women, here's 5 things that if you do them, you can really start to heal your brain. What would you tell them? You've talked about some of them. Give me your top 5 powerful tools and practices that you really think will move the needle, especially for women.
So start every day with today is going to be a great day. Start really disciplining your mind to look for what's right rather than what's wrong. And teach your children this game. I played it with my daughter over and over again. It's called Chloe's Game. You can call it whatever you want. I would go, is this good for your brain or bad for it? I mean, really learn the science. Quite frankly, most 7-year-olds know. Good for you or bad. Alcohol. Almost all 7-year-olds go, no.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Hitting soccer balls with your head. No. So live with that question. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? When you go to bed at night, and this is my favorite exercise, I do this every night. I say a prayer and then I go, well, it went well today. And I start at the beginning of my day. So it's not flippant. I look for what I loved about my day. And I'll think of you tonight because this has been fun. And then, do I love this food and does it love me back?
Yes,
And I
that's
get my
brilliant.
hormones checked on a yearly basis.
Getting the hormones checked.
Yeah, probably get a stool sample too, because if you have leaky gut, your body's not making enough serotonin.
So, and the hormone thing is tricky to me because every time I hear about checking your hormones, everyone's like, well, they're different every day. So how do you check them?
Day 19 to 21. So we know where you are in your cycle. If you're menstruating, I mean, after menopause, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Uh, and you know why your hormones drop with age?
Why?
It's the planet's way of getting rid of you. And I don't know about you, but I'm sort of not okay with that. And so I think bioidentical hormone replacement, I mean, do the things that are not stealing your hormone. Like, I like this app called Think Dirty, and it's not what you think it is. You can scan your personal products, and it'll tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 how quickly they're killing you. And
Mm,
I used to shave with Barbasol, and 1 is live a long time, and 10 is die early, and Barbasol's a 9. So
wow.
now I actually shave less, and when I do shave, I use something called Kiss My Face, and it's a 2. And it's actually not even more expensive, but even if it was, well, I like me a lot.
Yeah.
So
I like you a lot too. So yeah, I
so
want you around as long as
it's
possible.
not the parabens and phthalates and fragrances because they're hormone disruptors.
Hmm.
You don't want hormone disruptors on your body or the body of your children.
Amen. Amen. Well, this has been incredible. How do people, so I live in California. I'm lucky enough to live here. So what if somebody wants to check out their brain, or what kind of things do you offer them? Like, let's say we want to come and see you, because I know a lot of women are going to watch this and they're going, I'm going. Where's his clinic? I'm going. So first of all, where is it? How do we get to you? How do we find you? How can we play with you, Dr. Amen?
So I have 11 clinics around the country. In Southern California, I have one in Encino and one in Costa Mesa. People go to Amen, like the last word in a prayer, amenclinics.com. They can learn about us. They can also follow me at doc_Amen on Instagram or Doc Amen on TikTok. And we have lots of resources. And I have a book called Unleash the Power of the Female Brain that I love a lot.
Well, I will be
I
really.
have 5 sisters and 5 daughters, and God has blessed me. My wife said I came housebroken and well-trained.
Dr. Amen, you have exceeded my expectations. Thank you so much for this interview. This has been enlightening, to say the least, and I'm really excited. I'm going to get my brain scanned. I'm going to get my kids' brain scanned. My husband's going to come. So I'm going to bring the dogs. We're all going. So I'm excited to learn more and to go deeper with you, read the books and all the things. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. If you enjoyed this interview, you know what to do. Subscribe, follow, and check out all of Dr. Amen's fabulous things, because when you are with an expert, you got to take the expert advice, don't you think? You've heard a lot today. You've heard everything from, what did you say about the ants? Don't feed the ants, kill the ants. Kill the ants. You've heard everything from killing the ants to stop killing your brain. So take the advice and be well. All right, everybody. Goodbye.